Not a valid redeemer for my flesh, raised by me, the top martial artist. In 2019, as technology cuts man off, the trajectory of technology, drugs, psychology, and social controlling and social conditioning cuts man off from God. Certainly, after I die, they will be cut off permanently. Says who? Says the top martial artist, and if he says you can't be part of the divine order, no snaking, no science, no covering it up will ever change that. Who are you and who are you raising your child to be like? Therefore, this video is called Culture versus No Ill-Gotten Gains. No ill-gotten gain, pure morality. Life is full of evil people who are the flesh of their forefathers' flesh, the evil of their forefathers' evil. These males refuse to grow up and accept that humanity is one and let the top martial artist lead them. Those that were not aware of this idea were misled by their forefathers as they bred toward being a play on words for draw at animals. The survival, mating, food, and shelter direction, it's kind of like a zombie direction, really, or be one with those that betrayed Pharaoh at best. Right? Their forefathers betraying the top martial artist. We must consider the Columbus and the colonists' point of references, the traitors, the false pride and denial as ideas. Basically, this is basically thieves colonized by worst thieves, and you know them by their works. Are any of these groups obeying right now? After I've been trying to reason with them for damn near 3 decades. Ultimately, the females with traitor to God in their blood could not be reasoned with in 2019. Of course, they're fuming me. The unattractive sought to prey on and not to obey, and the attractive demanded conformity to their evil cultures. Davinci was an evil scientist that painted the idea of an evil female, the stolen Isis, the idea of the Romans giving an ovation to Venus and with the myrtle, which symbolizes purifying yourself of the ill-gotten gains, which obviously is complete bullshit, is the idea that with the traitor Horus from that culture, magically you're justified raping them and forcing them to marry you because they have gone with it. So Isis is the idea of pretending that your child is a child of Horus when Set has killed Osiris, who's a fake Horus, and impregnated you. Okay, pause it and think about that. Scientists don't know God without obeying the martial art order, despite what the most stupid of people think. Really, the most stupid don't get that. The Chi-Rho, the P superimposed on the X, right? Who's P, right? Constantine's penis, he wasn't a martial artist, superimposed on the X, which is the cross, the Sphinx, the spin X, the spine X, lateral movements, the rock to build the church, right? And the crossing of swords. Shun, shut, and shu are connected to shy and sensitive to the spirit of righteousness and injustice. Sensitive to both things, right? They can't exist together. Versus socialize, right? Why are you comfortable with this evil energy and the resulting evil social culture when Satan is the god of this world, more specifically the god of the world energy? That's why Ki means earth, this world, and also means energy. Okay, not to be confused with Chiuku, which is the great energy when God comes into this energy from above, right? The God of all is a God that's not a God of this world. Okay. So when we consider the movie Romeo Must Die, everyone in America knows that in the movies the black guy must die. That's how they do it. The dead in the occult are said to be those without the martial art spirit, the hero spirit. Perseus, Odysseus, Hercules, Horus, on and on. All throughout the occult, all throughout religion, people who pay attention know the true spirit of God is the spirit of in the hero. Okay. Jesus himself came to bring a sword, and he is killed by the military, right? Constantine, a military officer, a military governor. Look at how he's dressed in the movies. So when we look at their idea of fake help, they want you to grovel, to live in a way that puts them, people who are demons, right? And I've done the wordplay in this before. Deme, demos, the deity of terror, and so on and so forth. The peasant, the people, and so on and so forth. Anyway, obviously, America is the greatest failure of a nation because they were the unreasonable people who lived by me, who allowed the sun gate to close. The Judas nation of all nations that ever existed. All right. So I have 17 witnesses to my videos. I think it's more like 19 now. Most people know psychiatry is a Nazi science that favors the Jews, right? In a predominantly Christian culture or in a culture led by liberal, kind of scientific people who are led by Jews, okay, for the most part. Okay, so they're said to be the chosen people or the scientists or both in this culture. So who are the good stock? That's who it's pointed to. And ultimately the Germans come in second. There's a huge white American culture that embraces German engineering, Mercedes-Benz, blah, 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 blah. And, the Nazi movement and so on and so forth. So when you combine them, you get the German Jew, you get the Ashkenazi, right, with the Nazi right there in the word. All right. With no Redeemer, certainly there's no way to truly to truly repent. And that is why rape cult colonists in this shallow, crazed kind of mind state they're in, with cultural imperialism to make them feel better, say Jesus can redeem. How can you kill off all these people, these innocent people, and turn around and say some idea that you've made up is who you can redeem you when you've made it the image of Serapis? See, rape is on top of that. It is lying in this sort of way and in this psychological way to get people to sleep with you and so on and so forth, and to raise their children to be stupid enough to sleep with you. The top martial artist is the idea Jesus is superimposed on. The cross, the light of the cross. When you cross the swords, right, crossing sabers, the light that reflects on it. And obviously, the sword has to fit the body type. It's an extension of the body. So one kind of sword doesn't cover it. So it's the Chi-Rho example. Okay. So the royal brain surgeon's son, who's persecuted for righteousness, versus the pedos, the rapists, the neo-colonialists, the feminists, the gays on the left, in the church, with corporate sponsorships, right? You know them by their works. You're an idiot if you listen to them and not to me. This is the most logical argument ever made. There is no viable counterargument. Okay? People bred to be evil. That is why they roll with it, right? They roll. They're playing a role. They're acting scripture and script. With a church faction and all kinds of crazed, childish, and evil movements while they ignore me. You know them by their works. Bad trees cannot bear good fruit, right? It's the tree of pretending they have knowledge, bad trees. Only those that obey me, the good tree, can be made good and can make their offspring good. Okay. So life's a short bitch. Okay. Time goes slow when you're at work looking at the clock and you're being tortured. Okay. It goes quicker when you're busy or you're having fun. Time flies when you're having fun. So when you're busy helping evil people, it goes quickly. It's a short bitch, a short evil bitch. Okay, you're helping them rape and drug and murder and do all these cultural evils in the world. Okay, that's why part is a play on words for trap and pair, the feminine ending, etc. So they become one with this short evil bitch when they don't obey God. Ironically, it's easy for me to say this because short people have been pestering me about my challenge as if they're not supposed to find a way to work with their mind, body, soul, and spirit and to win sparring. Spirit, and so on and so forth, and parrot, and so on and so forth, versus parrot as a mimicking and just repeating nonsense versus relaying the true message of God. Obviously, there must be no more little men with a heart of a giant, and so it's also appropriate to say it this way. Because why aren't they obeying? Why aren't their daughters obeying? If you have a heart of a giant, wouldn't you raise your daughters right? You know them by their works. Are not their children some of their most important works if they have them? All right. So most people understand that we come from Africa. And most people are in denial. Who are your most noble ancestors? If you said long ago there was these righteous people and they made you who you are, shouldn't you start at the beginning? Wouldn't they start at the beginning if they were right? If they were truly righteous, wouldn't they look up to the righteous in Africa who came before them? Wouldn't they be doing the same thing you're doing? Saying that their spirit ancestors in Africa, from Africa, who lived and died in Africa, where they came from. Okay? We're noble people. Isn't it a descending order, if you look at it that way? Alone, mind you. They're the only way, the way they look at it. There is the one who civilized all of humanity that we're all related to. Then there are the ones who obeyed Pharaoh. If you don't look up to the ones who obey Pharaoh and obey what they wished for, you are obeying those who have betrayed the continuity of the one who was the most righteous. Why draw the line with the flesh if your argument is spirit? Why draw the line with the earth if your argument is spirit and the spirit realm is someone else? If you're writing for ancestors, which one? Which ones? The ones that betrayed the others? Which means you're ultimately writing for demons. There's one race, one earth, one top martial artist, one natural leader. Your respect your elders argument also proves that you're fools. Think about it. Everyone looks at their own culture and says that they are right. How are you any different from them? Why do other teachers want to waste your time and continue your complicity with evil on earth? Why don't they insist that you obey the top martial artist? Your argument is a series of betrayals. Once it's not good enough to just betray these other cultures, and you have to betray the culture you're currently in to survive, your children are going to do that. That is the path. It is the path of traitors. So when we look at the females on the internet, my dad was the most respectable man of his generation in truth. He came here as an immigrant during the Nigerian Civil War, as a royal family member. Okay. Came to Detroit without a penny in his pocket when it was the murder capital of America. Worked his way up from being homeless to being a brain surgeon, gives all of his money away and invests in natural medicine. He's sabotaged. No one can say they have a more respectable path. Bill Gates is a eugenicist. Doesn't matter if you gave billions to charity. If you are a eugenicist and it's going to be leveraged for eugenics, you don't have a more respectable path. No one is more respectable than him. He who sees the Father sees the Son in more than one way. He who sees the Spirit that brought the Father and forged the Son sees the Son. They have no excuse with that alone to not see me on social media and say, listen to this man and not anyone else. Get to know him and not anyone else. There is no comparison. Compare I, son. How they see things, how they present themselves. What is their first impression? And that leads me to point number 2. The angelic face of a hero in a martial arts with martial arts clothing. Everyone knows that the true spirit of God is in the hero. And the true hero. They have no excuse. They are focused on their children at best, which are the products of evil headed in an evil direction. And it's like a zombie saying, my zombie child is the reason I won't obey. We're going to keep preying on everybody. It is stupid. They failed to obey. There's one point in life to obey good. And there's one person that is the true conveyance of it. You have to transcend. Without a woman's touch, without being allowed to do the substances of my choice, smoke weed as I feel, drink as I feel appropriately. Certainly they made me more agitated in videos. And instead of admitting the failure was in them to create a society that raised good women who would nurture this good man, they say drug this person like an animal, when they are the animals that needed to be forced to obey, to do right. And that is what makes you an animal.